I'm Emily Johnston from Fashion Foie, and I'm here with Next today, celebrating the launch of their new Sofa Brochure. And I'm joined by the king of color and the master of interiors, Will from Bright.Bazaar.
Hey,
Will, tell us a little bit about you as the interiors king.
Sure. So I started a blog called Bright.Bazaar back in 2009. And since then it's grown to have an international audience. And I've kind of become known as the guy that loves colour but also has very accessible interiors. So I've always wanted to make interior design seem less daunting. So I published a book worldwide last year, and I'm currently working on my second one. And the premise of both books is to really give people the confidence to not only discover the colours and interior styles they love, but understand how they can bring them home too.
My first couch purchase was from Next, because previously I'd always lived in rented accommodation, which I think most Londoners can understand.
Right.
And they come fully furnished. And I had my first flat that wasn't fully furnished, and I had this grand task of choosing a sofa. And I actually had such a good experience, mostly because I found that I was moving into the flat and I didn't have a lot of time to organize everything.
Sure.
And the thing that really drew me to Next was the fact that they had a 4-day delivery scheme.
Which is so awesome.
I mean, it really is incredible. So you narrow down what it is that you want, and then you have 2 guys that come to your house with the sofa to deliver it and put it together. And when I first saw them arrive with legs on the sofa and screws, I thought to myself, I don't even own a screwdriver. How is this going to happen? First world problems. And they came in, put the sofa together, unwrapped everything, and put the legs on the sofa for me, and basically left my living room intact.
Right, so you took your cup of tea from the kitchen counter to your couch.
Yeah,
like,
basically.
Seamless,
it
right?
was the perfect thing. So I've always been a big fan. But let's segue then into, so we've talked about our first buying experience. And of course, I work in fashion, and I'm really trend-led. And so I'm always thinking about trends in terms of seasons and what's happening with fabrics and colors and shapes. And I feel like interiors has that same sort of vibe, but maybe you could lead me through, is it the same thing? Are trends changing every 6 months? Is it something that's more driven by materials, colors, and how we can all be a part of that?
Sure. So interiors doesn't move as quickly as fashion, but obviously there are trends that come and go like in anything in life. But I think when it comes to a sofa, you obviously don't buy a new sofa every 6 months or even every year, so it becomes a more considered purchase. So what you can do to kind of keep up with trends, should you wish to, with interiors, is actually think about the smaller incidental pieces that you can layer into a sofa in the rest of the room. So for example, on this Stratus couch, the new sofa range, Next range, there's this throw pillow. What's great about this is it's not only picking up the colours of the couch itself, but it's accenting it with this metallic. And then I've done that again in the print behind. So just with 2 simple pieces, you've kind of taken the duckhead couch and given it this kind of glamorous, on-trend metallic touch, which is everywhere right now. I think people can sometimes look at one piece in a shop or online and think, oh my gosh, how's it going to work? And it's actually just keeping in mind that you're going to pair that with other pieces in the space. So if you're struggling to make a choice, so Next have hundreds of sofas to choose from, which is great, but don't let that daunt you. That's a real positive, because it means that whatever your personal style and taste, you're going to be able to find what you want.
Right.
If you're struggling to narrow down what that is, there's very likely something in your house already that you love, whether that's a vase, a piece of statement artwork, could be even a rug.
Yeah.
Make that your hero piece. So you say, right, okay, I'm definitely going to have that in my space, and I want to make sure that everything else I bring into the house, or into that room rather, ties back to it, so that there's this cohesive feel. So for example, if you've got a yellow and grey rug, then you know that you can use grey as your base primary palette, which is typically about 60% of the space. And then you can then bring in 30%, which is your secondary colour, which you introduce through furniture and through soft textiles such as curtains. And then accent colour is typically 10%.
And also, actually, something that Next have just launched that's really helpful that I wish that I had had when I was ordering my sofa is, and speaking about the hero piece. So I think if you select something that you sort of want to model your room around,
right.
The one nice thing they do now is you can order for free 9 swatches of the different sofa fabrics and have it delivered next day. So I feel like that's really helpful to have a swatch of the item that you have in mind to kind of take it. And if you have a lot of things that you've collected over the years and sofas, maybe something that you're adding in later, that you can take those and see how they play with all the different elements in your life.
Right, and it's also, I think the thing is with buying a sofa is it's a really considered purchase. It's not something that you just make overnight, and it shouldn't be. You know, I think that it's really important that, you know, the sofa, just like the couch in Friends became almost like the next character. Yeah. It's the same in your house. When you travel, when you go away, you really look forward to coming back and having that comfort of being on your sofa. It's home. And so you want to make sure you get it right.
As a Londoner, the biggest thing we face as a problem is just space.
Right.
And so buying a sofa has a new set of problems entirely.
Sure.
Even with things like dimensions of being able to fit it into the house. Can you give us some tips on general buying for that space, and also how it is that you look at placing the sofas?
Sure. In terms of choosing the sofa to fit a small space, love seats are proving really popular right now, and that can be anything from sort of a two-seater down. And they work in both small rented spaces, but also in large spaces. You'd be surprised. So a love seat is great for a very small living room, but also if you've got a big grand house and you've got a huge expansive hallway or a very glamorous bedroom, actually a bed's just not going to be enough to fill it. So you can actually add in a love seat as a nice luxury touch to have in the hallway or in a bedroom as well.
I always thought when you buy sofas that you buy suites. So you buy everything the same color and then you sort of accessorize, you do your color pops through that. Then when we came in here today and I saw the two sofas, my loving the pink and yours sort of the beautiful pale blue, seeing them together was a whole new concept for me. And I just wondered, is that something that people do? Is mixing and matching sort of a done thing?
If you were going for, say, a very contemporary look like the Sonoma sofa, in that kind of circumstance, it works to have a slightly more linear line in terms of choosing the types of pieces that you'll go for, because that is the look in itself. It's sleek, it's contemporary. But if you wanted to go for kind of a more mix and match shabby chic look, you could mix and match styles. The way to make it work is to have a red thread through it. So for example, if you wanted to ping a heritage piece in with something that has more contemporary shape and forms and more linear shapes, you can do it, but make sure that the fabric choice is the same, or the colour palette of the pattern is the same, so that there is something that ties them together. Next, obviously, have 21 different leathers, and I think something like just over 100 different fabrics. There's lots to choose from, but you need to make sure you're picking the right one for the use of the sofa.
Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take a few questions.
Sure.
So we've had some people come in on Twitter. I'm worried that if I choose a bright sofa, that it will soon go out of style. What should I do?
They should buy you that bright sofa.
I think Will's going to tell you to buy the bright sofa no matter what happens.
But I mean, I am obviously a pro colour, but it's I think, like we talked about, how interiors aren't the same as fashion. It's that actually you don't have to have a neutral couch to be able to switch up the look of it. Even with a brightly coloured couch, you can change the look of it with those incidental pieces. And what's so great about that is it's such an affordable way to change up the look of the space.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say if you're drawn to a bright color, there's a reason you're drawn to that color. You should just buy it and then make it work. And look at your Pinterest, because you have great stuff on Pinterest actually.
Thanks.
And the blog, looking at how you can work the bright colors and sort of tone them down to meet your requirements.
Right, and like I was saying about using the black as like tempering it. So you can like temper brighter colors so just like with your hot pink couch here, you've chosen these mix and match pillows that are actually clashing patterns, but the reason it works is because there's a red thread that they're all from this kind of neutral toned down grey palette, and what they do in turn is they're tempering the strength of that pink so that it looks cohesive, it looks stylish, and it doesn't just like wow you with that. It feels like a considered scheme.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like I've learned so much about sofas. I'm going to go home and reassess. Timing, right? I know, right? Perfect timing. But even today, I feel like I'm going to go home and reassess everything that I've done. Good and bad, I suppose.
No, I'm sure it's good.
But yeah, thank you so much. And for everyone else, remember that next.co.uk has everything that you need to know there. The new Sofa Brochure is online and can be picked up in store. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Bye.